All right, we ready to go, gentlemen?
Yeah.
Okay, fantastic. Welcome to the MDC Talks. We are the Motion Dance Collective, a screen dance production company focusing on promoting the creation and education of dance on film projects. And this episode is going to be talking about one of our films, Ease on Down.
Ease on Down.
That was made about 2 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah?
Thereabouts.
So we're going to be doing a little critique of the film, talking to the team about their experiences on the film. So first things first, we're going to give it...
Some of the team.
Not all of them. There was a lot of people involved, wasn't there? Big team. So first of all, we're just going to watch the film. Give us a little
When's the last time you saw it, James?
Yeah.
Probably not too long after we finished it, you know?
So that's like a year and a half, maybe?
Yeah, it's been a while.
Since this version, I've changed the credits. I made them a bit smaller. Because you know what's funny? Is that when I put the credits on, and then it was screened at its first festival.
Yeah.
And it was just so gigantic on the,
The
screen.
words on
Yeah,
the screen?
because I was using, obviously,
Interesting.
my home monitor.
Yeah.
And so that's something that I think is quite useful to think about, is trying stuff on different screens, different monitors. And I'm sure we'll talk about sounds later, because we had to do a mixture.
It's actually
of that
something that trips me up all the time, because I like the look of small writing generally.
Right.
And that's the feedback I always get from people, is like, people are going to view this on their phones now, and it's like tiny. And I'm like, yeah, but it looks better.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, totally. All right, here we go. Some progress. Let's do it. Oh, gosh, it brings back such memories.
Yeah, you know, I mean, like you say, I haven't seen this for quite a while.
Yeah.
But it's actually, it looks much more solid than I remember, actually. Like my relationship to the shoot was just all of the stuff that you have to deal with, you know, like it's all the stuff that happened that we had to compensate for. So when you have that distance from it and that's all gone out of your head, you see it in like a much more
different,
pure way. You just see the result without all of the connotation of the shoot.
Yeah, you forget that it rained.
Yeah.
That it was 2 days.
Yeah. Totally. I love the coloring. It's kind of different.
Yeah, and
really
that's
coloring.
different to how I remember.
This part here was insane to match up, especially for Nicola, because so we're generally like speeding up the time. There wasn't any timing and anything.
There wasn't.
So she literally had to go every single time we stepped. There was a sound there.
That little focus pull to the flower.
So
me. I can't handle it.
So I got a comment, and
Really?
someone was like, I really love that bit. You know, it just, you saw the nature, and then it went back to you guys.
Happy accidents.
Yes.
Maybe we shouldn't. Maybe just turn the music down a bit, just so that we don't have to fight over it. That's good.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know, even though it wasn't really the look that we were going for, with all the heavy cloud and all that sort of stuff,
Yeah.
I think it actually really adds something to the visual of this.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because
This part.
I think a lot of the problem that we have shooting in the UK outdoors is that it's really easy to just get really flat, grey, overcast sky. I mean, kind of like how it is in this. And this was another day.
Yeah, because we tried to
having
fake
them
it, didn't
clouds.
we?
Yeah.
We tried to make it American.
Brighter.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
You know,
But it's
look
not.
really kind of bright, and obviously that wasn't going to happen.
That was the inspiration for the coloring, wasn't it? That you wanted to.
Yeah,
Bright
warming up the
Americana
grass
feel.
and making it look a
Yeah.
little bit more kind of burnt.
That green screen
Right.
at the end is done really well.
Yeah.
Wait, let me see the credits.
Oh, why?
'Cause, I want to make sure I mention everybody who's involved. James Williams, Josh, Sam Barnett, Zoe Pascal,
Ahmad
Nicola
Dayes.
Chang, Ahmad Dayes, Jason Emberton did the mastering.
Forgot about Jason Emberton. Yeah.
Can't forget about Jason.
Cool. Well, that is the film.
Yeah.
It's available for online viewing. We will attach the link so you guys can check it out if you haven't already. So,
What are your thoughts looking at it, Omari?
I've seen it in so many different contexts now. It's like, it's so nice. It really has like gone around the world, and it's reaching a lot of different people. And Yeah, there's always a point, especially at the end part where the sign comes up.
Yeah.
Audiences usually laugh.
Yeah, it's
There's always a big giggle at that point, but it always surprises me because that's like the deepest part of the film where it's kind of like, oh, they're not allowed in this place. But everyone describes this film as a comedy.
Yeah, it's
everyone
interesting,
describes
isn't
it as a light-hearted, very happy film, and I think it is.
Most of it is.
Yeah, I think it definitely is one of those, and it doesn't end on too bad of a thing. But if it wasn't dance,
yeah,
it would be if it was just a normal action. We're basing it. It's based on real day events, but if it was all natural movement, then I think it would be a lot more hard hitting if they were just walking.
Yes. If it
and
was
then they get to a sign and they're like you, and it was like a picture of them two. You can't come in. You know?
Yeah.
I don't know. I think because of the way that we shot it and the way that we structured the scenes, even if there was no dancing, I feel like even if they were just walking in silence,
yeah,
deadpan, just walking in silence, if it was shot the same, it would still feel
lighthearted.
I think it would still feel like almost like a parody of a topic.
Okay, that's interesting.
I mean, if you think about the sideways shot where you do the handstand walk.
Yeah.
Right. You know, if we cut to that and you just have two people walking through in complete silence, that's a funny shot.
Yeah.
It's still a light-hearted shot.
Right.
It's still treating the concept as a parody. So I think it does have a light-hearted tone just because of the way that we delivered it.
Yeah.
But then would that ending be more serious if it wasn't used through body percussion? Like what would be on the sign?
Yeah, I suppose it depends what you put on the sign, doesn't it?
Absolutely.
Or it would be an actual border, because that's something we spoke about with the ending. I'm sure.
Yeah.
You, well, we can talk about that then.
Yeah, it's one of my questions.
Yes. Okay, let's go.
Okay, great. So, first question: how did you come up with the concept for the film? What was the inspiration behind it?
So, the film actually started with conversations with Rhona Ashwood, who is a fellow performer in the Stomp show in West End. And we were talking about how, I think at the time, we had just come off of tour, so we weren't doing Stomp as much. So we were kind of getting this itch to like make work and do things that were outside of the show, because the show, any show that you're a part of becomes your life for a little bit.
Yeah.
So I said to Rhona, right, we're going to make something. We're
Yeah.
going to try and come up with something. And then just knowing that we both had the powers of body percussion, and I've always wanted to work with body percussion in film in some way. So this was the first chance to get something, to make a piece that told a story through the body being percussed.
Yeah.
Or at least the body being percussed being part of that narrative.
Okay.
But it wasn't the first time you've done a film with body percussion, right?
We did a test. Oh no, Take 10 with Pedro.
That's true.
Yeah.
That was a long time ago.
But that one wasn't narrative. That was definitely.
It was a camera test.
That was definitely more of a concept.
Right.
And it was a concept with choreographed cameras. So yeah, we had 3 cameras.
Yeah, that's right.
And
I
they were
remember
all
now.
choreographed, and then they were choreographed around Pedro's body percussion composition. So that one was, there was a really good test of miking sound and actually using multiple cameras to capture one thing. So this was very different in that sense. That it's very narrative. It's and it tells a story that is quite important, but also can be missed, I guess, in the joy of it all. Which is, but I kind of like that the joy is a
Part of it.
Yeah, and the biggest part of it.
Yeah.
So.
So actually, the film was made for the My Road Reel competition, right?
Yes.
So
yes.
Did that have any bearing on the way you created it, or was it mainly just sort of like an excuse to make the film? You know, it was sort of like an initiator for the timing of it.
It definitely had bearings on things like how long it was.
Yeah.
Obviously there are
What equipment you
regulations
used.
of.
Because that was the whole point, right? You had to use specific equipment
Yeah, we had
in
to
order
use
to enter
Rhodes,
the competition.
Something off Rhodes.
Rode microphones or something that was from the Rode company.
Yeah.
So that kind of put a guideline on the way the film was going to be made. But the reason it got made was a combination of Rhona asking me.
Yeah.
And Josh was the one. He wanted to enter My Road Reel the following past year.
Right.
So.
But the
it
idea
came
had
across
been
again.
brewing for a while, as you said, because you
Yeah,
wanted to make a
I think
dance
it was
film
just body percussion on the
with
list
body
of films.
percussion,
Yeah, it was just body percussion. That's what we want to make. And we'll do that at some point. And it's half the time you've got these ideas and you're just waiting for the excuse.
Yeah, to do it.
Yeah, to
put it
actually
into action.
Bring it to fruition.
Great.
Yeah.
So the next question is about the ending of the film. So what made you choose that ending for the film? Where did that come from?
So I didn't have an ending initially.
Yeah.
And it was Josh, now known as his actual name, Joshua Chester. And shout out to Josh, man like Josh. So I didn't have an idea for an ending because I didn't necessarily have an answer to the question I was trying to propose. And the question is do people who are different or maybe have different styles culturally or socially or even just within dance, will they be openly accepted in a new place? I was thinking about leaving London at the time, and I still am in that way, so it was a kind of way of exploring that question. What would it be like when I leave? Crossing borders, all those sorts of things. And obviously in light of everything that's happening with migration and all those things, I think it was the time to make a piece like that.
Absolutely.
What was the question again?
It was just what was behind the ending of the film. Like, were there other alternative endings? Like, how did you decide on that one? I wasn't sure
if they should, after they get to the barrier, they should go back and feel disheartened and just leave, or they go through it.
Yeah, they keep
through
going.
the line, and then progress on to just kind of say the barrier.
Trespassing.
Yeah, exactly.
We're doing it anyway.
Yeah, exactly. So I didn't have an answer for it, so I didn't really have an ending.
Yeah.
And then so we thought of different endings like that.
Yeah.
Going back.
I remember. Yeah.
But then we actually just settled on, let's just ask the question.
Let's see. Let other people figure out. Potential answers.
Yeah, exactly. And so, you don't necessarily always have to have an answer to your pieces. It's good to just sometimes go, here's the question, what do you think? So we ended it on that.
And it keeps the narrative neutral as well, doesn't it?
Absolutely.
That
you're not saying one way or the other.
You're not kind of taking a side and saying this is the best way of doing something. You're just saying what do you think about this? Like say asking the question.
Right.
Leaving it open to the audience to interpret. Because obviously I remember getting some really interesting feedback on the ending at some film festivals when we were in Cinemadance. People were really intrigued by that last shot. So it's always fun to hear what other people take away from it, because it can be so different from what you necessarily, what you were thinking, what you intended,
Yeah, it's that's the thing with film and theatre, is that you can never guarantee what the audience is going to take from your film.
Yeah.
And even if they try and get any sort of meaning from it, it's usually based on their own preconceptions and experience of that particular theme or those bodies on screen.
Yeah.
So, but I think it's important to know what it is for yourself.
Yeah.
And when you know that, it helps to be able to resonate that outwards and give it to other people so that they're able to read it.
But I mean, saying that, did it bother you, or does it bother you that people started to treat it as a comedy?
Very good question. I mean,
it sounds like it was a shock to you, the way that you said it. Like, we went there and people were
laughing
at it and thinking it was a comedy.
I have to say, I think it's a bit of when people find something that shocks them a little bit or surprises them, I think the natural instinct for some people is to laugh. Like, I laugh when I'm nervous or when I'm surprised. So I don't know if it was necessarily, oh wow, that's so funny, more of, oh, I wasn't expecting that. But I think some people genuinely did find it funny.
I think it's
and it has that light.
It is. I mean, it's got two stick men doing body percussion,
isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. So I think it is definitely dark humor.
Yes, absolutely.
And so it is funny because it's shocking, but it's also like, oh, what are they gonna do now?
Yeah. But then you have to think about the result of that. So it's like a lighthearted idea, but then underneath there's all these really deep layers, and it's sort of sorting through that.
And I think it's a film that I think all of the films that we make need to be watched more than once.
Agreed.
There's no way that you can get everything from it. Like even just Ease on Down, it helps when it's finished not to move on to another video straight away, because you need to take in what just happened. And that's why it's hard at film festivals, because sometimes your film is quickly followed by something else, and you don't have enough time for them to actually do that laughter and then go, what was I actually laughing at then? Because it's one of those moments, I think. Hold on a second, wait.
Yeah.
And End of the Block was like that as well.
Yeah.
You know, people laughed
Very
when the
similar.
stickmen were killing each other, but when it's based on actual humans killing each other.
Yeah,
so,
totally.
You know,
it's not a funny matter.
Yeah, it's a
But
dark,
it's
but
one
it's
of
a
those
way to
things.
get it out there and
Absolutely.
disguise it through dark humor, so that one, it's accessible, and two, it helps to, I guess, make sure that, I mean, bring an entertainment factor to it.
Yeah.
I guess.
I guess,
To
yeah.
intrigue you to continue watching it, and then hit you with a message at the end. Like, oh, okay, you got me all the way through this journey to this message. So, yeah.
Great. Fabulous. So, next question. What were the challenges, if any, with the process of this film and making the film? Maybe, James, you can talk a bit about that, because I know there was a few factors
Well, you
on
know
the
what's
day.
really funny? I was thinking about this last night. I kind of remembered what the topic was for today, and I was like, I should actually think about the process of making that film,
Yeah,
because it was
so
a little
long
while ago.
2 years ago, yeah.
And then I kind of clocked that we had another location originally.
Yeah.
So we were going to shoot one day in the city. We were going to shoot one day in Stratford on a road.
Yeah, Queen Elizabeth Park had
Yeah.
a little lovely road by it that was like closed
And
off.
like 2 days or something before the shoot date, we decided to scrap that first location. It happened really last minute.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we decided we wanted to spend more time
On
out.
that
So
road.
that was kind of like a big flip to the whole shooting process.
Yeah, of
that happened
course.
really last minute that I'd kind of even forgot happened.
Yeah.
And in some ways, I kind of want to know what that would have been like if we'd have not done that, and if we'd have shot half in a city environment and half out in nature.
Definitely
like,
would have
like
changed
what
it.
would that have given to the project?
Yeah.
How would that have changed the outcome?
Yeah.
And the process of shooting it. So in some ways, I'm kind of curious as to, I mean, maybe we should just remake the whole thing in the city, see what the difference is.
Well, that's the thing, is that I think there was a juxtaposition there between what could have been perceived as two urbanite people in a new place, in a rural setting. So I think that was quite nice to kind of, even the clothes we wore, you can probably tell that we were city dwellers a bit.
Yeah.
Or maybe not, I don't know. It's not, because I like to say that we make urban dance film, but this particular film isn't necessarily urban dance in that sense.
Yeah.
Because it does have a very rural feel. It has a very country vibe. It has like walking from one town to another.
Yeah.
Maybe they're just walking to the beach or the shop. You know, in those towns, the shop's a long way to go. So I think I did want to give that impression that we were somewhere where the border was.
Yeah.
And actually that city one did have that vibe that could potentially have a border, but I imagine it would have been a more formal city, like actual stamping some badges border kind of thing. But yeah,
Sorry,
I think it worked in that
I
sense.
also realised I didn't answer your question at all.
No, that's fine. I was just going to bring it back to the question because we went on a tangent. It's all good. That's what happens.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of
so
like dealing with
the weather
stuff on the production,
conditions,
yeah.
like I know that was a big issue. Can you talk a bit about
the
that?
first day it hammered it down for
With
like
rain.
half of the day. Yeah. So we got there, it was kind of overcast, and then it just got more and more stormy. You can kind of see in the opening shots of that, there's really black storm clouds that were coming. And then we just ended up spending half the day under a tree trying to keep everything dry and trying to keep ourselves dry.
And then every time the sun popped out,
We just ran out and did a take.
Come back.
I
and then
remember
run back.
some of the behind the scenes footages of you guys all
Yeah.
like
Oh, yeah,
under
you see us
umbrellas,
under
following
umbrellas.
you to
Yeah,
down
because
the
we shot
street.
it, we did film it just in case.
Yeah.
It was like, we need to, this now needs to be a piece in rain.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, we
Sometimes you
definitely
gotta
had
roll
that
with the
conversation.
punches.
yeah. But yeah, I mean, another difficulty that happened was I think we all had certain stories in our head of the way the film was going to go. And even though we had given out roles and Cristobal was a great director and things like that, there were certain moments where maybe the storyboard was different in our heads.
Yeah.
So we would have to have conversations where we would make sure we were on the same page in that moment.
Yeah.
Where some people wanted to get on film. So it was kind of like
Change the pace of the process
a
a
little bit.
Yeah.
And I think that also comes down to treatment and storyboarding, and
And it was a fresh team as well.
And
I mean,
it- yeah.
It's the first
new
time you
team
guys
had
had
not
ever worked together,
worked.
right? I mean, it was one of the first projects that you guys did together ever. It was the second project,
Second
right?
project,
Which
yeah.
is,
Oh, damn.
it's the
Yeah.
second project ever.
Yeah.
And it was the first time
you'd
I'd ever
worked-
met Cristobal.
Yeah, it's the first time you'd worked with Cristobal as a
And Josh.
director.
And Josh.
The first time you'd worked with Josh. Rhona had never worked with the collective before.
Yeah.
So it's a new thing. And then we had Danilo there on the day.
And
that was the first
Lawrence
time
on the
he'd been
second day
involved.
shooting VR, yeah.
So yeah, there was a lot going on.
A lot
So it
of
was a
new
new
people,
team.
yeah.
And yeah, sometimes it takes a while to warm up with each other and kind of get
Yeah.
into
And
this.
get in sync as well.
Yeah.
And I think that as well, kind of there was no rehearsal time or anything like that, so it
Yeah.
really was, we all turned up from our own
Right.
worlds with our own
Yeah.
baggage and then tried to make something together with,
Yeah, and only
with
Cristobal
nothing.
had seen the location, things like
Yeah.
that. So we had gotten a couple photos, but we had
Oh
to
yeah, we
find...
turned up at the location, we didn't know what that looked like at all.
Yeah, no,
And we
exactly.
kind of
and then we had to find a
blagged,
spot. Yeah,
we
yeah.
blagged it with the
Yeah,
farmer
yeah,
who
yeah.
we met on the way in.
Right. Yeah, we were like, oh, do you mind if we just film in your land for a
Yeah.
Oh
second?
my God, really?
So he was
Yeah.
cool with that. Yeah.
That's so
it's
funny.
fine.
I didn't realize that.
But yeah, I think they were like the main challenges, I guess,
Yeah.
in a way, is just making sure that we're all on the same page and dealing with English weather.
Yeah.
Was
Yeah.
another thing.
So that was the shoot day. How did you go about planning and constructing the sound design for the film with all the different elements involved, especially the body percussion? So you did mention it a little bit, but in terms of prepping
Okay, so
for the body percussion,
what did we do?
what were the main things that you had to think about?
We made... Okay, so all that needed to happen for it to work
Yeah.
was everything to be on the same BPM. So
Okay.
the body percussion on the actual day when we were recording, we had a metronome and a Bluetooth speaker in our rucksack.
Oh,
So
okay, I didn't know that.
as we were performing, you just had this just
To try
like
and keep in time.
keeping us there. And if we were out of time, we stopped. So we made sure that we stayed with the metronome, so that when we actually ended up recording, or Sam putting his stuff on, all I had to tell him was 107 BPM.
How interesting.
And then so he can make his music to that metronome,
Yeah.
and then we knew it would match up automatically.
Yeah.
And so that worked out very well. The only thing that was kind of a bit odd was trying to make sure we got all of some beats were very swung or laid back or pushed up. So we had to make sure that swing was the same in the music and other little things like that. So that took a while kind of getting around the feel of the rhythms.
Yeah.
Because they're very different from when you're like right on beat to where you're like swung, you know what I
Slightly
mean?
off,
Like, slightly
yeah.
off. So we had a lot of that in some of the bars. So that was like a process or negotiation process.
In terms of capturing the music and the sound on screen, what for you, was there anything that was slightly different? Like, you're talking about focusing on like, obviously there's shots where it's just the feet and there's shots where it's just the face, and
Yeah.
how did that play into actually capturing the frames?
I think the focus in terms of shooting for me was about trying to keep the pace moving forward. So it was pace, but it was pace in terms of traveling
Yeah.
rather than pace in terms of like beats per minute or rhythm. It was about trying not to let anything sit in one place, because it was a story about a journey. So
Yeah.
I think what me and Cristobal spent a lot of time like
Talking about.
trying to get was this thing of like the camera just never sitting still.
Yeah, okay.
And
That's a
that,
good
and that was
point,
actually
actually,
quite
yeah.
hard to do. Because you guys are obviously doing the kind of body percussion and you're doing patterns around each other and you're not always moving forwards.
Yeah.
Sometimes you're crossing over in one place, or so trying to get that in a way where it felt like it was always moving even when it wasn't was
Okay.
was the main focus for me in terms of how it was shot.
Okay, great.
Yeah, and that pacing was quite important because I think we were rehearsing it moving faster, and then when the camera was involved, we had to adhere to the pace so that the camera could actually move comfortably
Yeah.
without there being too much shake or something going on. So it was a question of kind of negotiating that. What's the distance here? This
Yeah.
part we're running, but are we running like really running, or are we kind of fake running on the spot and moving
I
forward
remember
slowly?
doing that last shot
With the claps.
The running down the road. Oh my god, we
So,
did that
yeah,
so
Was
many
it really
times.
hard to
Yeah, well, I'm running
capture
backwards.
that? Right, exactly. So
and
what,
then he'd have to slow down so that we could run past.
Yeah,
The
and we
camera.
were on a pretty dodgy corner with cars coming round it.
and
every
it's also
so
like
gravel
the
floors,
ground
like-
the ground is uneven. It's like rocky and
Yeah.
dust
Yeah.
and
that
pebbles and
that
stuff.
last
Yeah,
one with the clapping in
yeah.
particular, I remember being a real pain.
But we got it done.
We did that a lot.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we
Yeah,
did, like,
did you have
at
to
least-
take a lot of takes
At
for
least
that?
15 or something.
Really?
Like that.
Oh yeah, it was a lot
Awesome.
to get
Yeah.
that.
But yeah, we got it, and it's worth it. That's what it's all about. That's
Yeah.
what it's all about.
Yeah.
Um,
Was that the hardest part to shoot out of the whole film? the hardest segment?
I think logistically, yeah. I mean, just because we were on a road as well, so we had to have spotters on either end of where we were telling us when cars were coming, and then we'd be like, "You've got to go now," and no one was ready, and so it was logistically a much tougher.
It wasn't even just the one we were running towards the camera. It was after that where it continues to the other road, and there were cars coming down that road constantly.
So you had to deal with cars.
Yeah, and that was the same road that we did the handstand bit on.
Yeah.
So it was like, okay, there's another car. Okay, no. Like, and then you had to get it.
And then handstand
in
the road.
And I think I got it first take. I think I got that handstand.
Yeah, we didn't do that
Managed to
many
do it
times.
first
We
take.
didn't do it many times.
I don't think you did. Because,
Looking at the scene, you forget that that's a road.
Yeah.
Because it just looks like a, country,
Path.
off the beaten path sort of place. You forget that you might actually have to be navigating vehicles. That's a whole other ballgame.
Yeah, I mean, it was only at the very end of the film where it was a road with vehicles coming down constantly.
Right.
The gravel path was just someone's
Gravel path,
private.
Oh, that was private.
Lead up
Okay,
to the
good.
farm.
We weren't dealing with cars on that.
It was just the
people.
last bit.
Yeah. But apart from that, it was actually, it went really smoothly,
Great.
considering, yeah.
And was that the first film that you'd worked on that incorporated body percussion?
Yeah, film, yeah.
Yeah. And was it different in any way for you experiencing the filming process?
I wouldn't say massively, no. Just because I'm used to shooting with dance anyway, so
You're used to the movement.
I'm used to
of
people
it,
moving, used to shooting with kind of body as the subject. So I don't think there was anything that really stood out as like, oh, I'm going to have to really think about something in particular because it's body percussion. I think just the crossover from dance is fairly fluid there.
Yeah, and it was kind
shooting.
of body percussion with a dance
With
aesthetic
dance,
kind of thing. A lot of body percussion you see performed on screen is usually on the spot. Someone's just doing and just spectacling the situation, showing what they can do, or just banging out some bars like right in the middle of the screen.
Yeah.
Or what happens when you add movement to that? What happens when you add intention to that? What happens when you add a narrative to that? It changes everything. So,
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Great. Final question. Rite of Passage, a sense of journey, moving forwards, or some kind of pathway, seems to be a concept that you keep revisiting in your work, in the MDC's films. Do you think that it's a theme that why is it a theme that you're drawn to for any particular reason? Where do you think it's coming from? Because obviously End of the Block had that same feel of some kind of journey, some kind of...
Yeah, and going through a door that you don't know where it's going.
Yeah, and obviously
There was
that
no
film
answer to
was
that
really successful, and I remember talking to you about what made that film so appealing to our audiences. What is it about End of the Block that draws people in? And Eat on Down, I think, has a very similar feel in terms of that theme of some kind of rite of passage. So is it something that speaks to you on a personal level? Is it something that you are revisiting in your work because of a personal experience, or is it just something that happens to be we keep coming back around to? I mean, obviously, in the current climate that the world is dealing with, it's definitely something on a lot of people's minds, but...
Yeah, I guess it's a kind of should I stay or should I go mentality kind of vibe. I knew that I wanted my films to have journey within them and always have some sort of narrative and a through line through them. So I think it's that helped. Having a sort of pathway to follow helped, because then I can go, right, well, at least if this is the first part of the journey, then all right, let's just follow this and continue with this. And then when I get to the end, I'm like, okay, what happens here? Should I leave it open-ended? Should we let some people succeed and some people not? And I think it's very true just for life in general. We're always pushing to move on to something else, do something new. We don't stay in the same jobs for too long. We want to try and get out of the city, out of our estate block.
I think it's a generational thing too, isn't it?
Maybe it's this age that I'm at as well, like late 20s. I want to explore, I want to find out,
travel.
See other things, go to new places, live in new places. So I think there's that urge within me that I put into the work of trying to go, right, well, what's next? What's after this?
Yeah.
Or what's before this? Or where can we go now? So I think there's a constant need for that. Yeah.
Cool. Great. Well, thank you guys. It's really interesting to hear some of the logistics of making it, because I didn't have any part in this film, so I was an outsider.
You're the distributor.
I was, yeah. But it's really interesting to hear more details about it, because obviously you talked about the shoot with me, but I feel like I've learned a lot about the actual process that I didn't even know was going on. So it's really interesting to learn.
I think it's good for people out there to learn about the process of what we're doing, and I think that's why this podcast is important.
Yeah.
Because it's 90% of the process is the journey.
Yeah.
I would say, and so this contributes to that. The behind the scenes contributes to that. Watch all of it, and you really get a better idea into our practice and what we do, and why we do it.
There's also a behind the scenes.
Behind the scenes.
Check out our behind the scenes. No, we'll definitely attach all the links for the film, the behind the scenes. There's lots of interesting stuff for you guys to check out. So we will be sure to link that to the episode. But that's everything for today. So this is the MDC Talks. Thanks for joining us.